In my time writing game reviews, one thing has made itself abundantly clear. The indie market is incredibly interesting. If you happen to be strapped for cash, no problem. You can find a great time on Steam, IndieDB, GameJolt, or a variety of other sites for free 99. If you're willing and able to shell out a few bones, once again you can count on Steam, but also the PSN, Xbox Marketplace, and the Nintendo eShop are reliable options if you're more of a console gamer. Hello and welcome back to Indie Impact, where I'll be taking a casual glance at some indie titles that can be found on one or more of the aforementioned platforms, discussing their pros, cons, and letting you know if they're impacts or setbacks. So, without further ado, here are today's selections. I like to believe that I am smart, but I am almost certain my intelligence is slightly below average. In fact, there is a reason to believe that when I was only 7 years old, when I was but a tater tot, I was caught up in a conspiracy and the CIA swapped my brain with that of a squirrel. It could be that that is the reason I struggle with games like Reason, developed and published by Qbyte Interactive. Reason Casual Puzzle is a misnomer. There is absolutely nothing casual about this puzzle. Sure, it might be aesthetically pleasing, and its minimalist emphasis on geometry might lure you in with promises of serotonin like the weird imaginary boogeyman who offers kids his expensive cannabis each Halloween, but before you know it, you'll be disassociating in the back room of an Applebee's Bar and Grill in Ames, Iowa, whilst the grossly overqualified but cruelly underpaid neighborhood expert, who is ironically treated like a menace to society, solves these puzzles on your behalf. It's been a long month. Let's take a look at Reason's pros. It is most certainly aesthetically pleasing. The visuals, the admittedly repetitive but soothing BGM, and the subtle, unpronounced sound design and UI make this one an enjoyable experience, even if it's a criminally difficult series of puzzles. I may have joked about it before, but it's by no means unfair. It may be difficult, but I fully realize my inability to complete the game is entirely due to my own lack of logical awareness. I rarely continue to play the games I cover in this series after an episode's been posted, but I think I'll keep this one installed and hop in from time to time. Let's take a look at Reason's cons. I understand that the point here is the puzzles, but I would have liked to see more from the story. It does have a story, but it feels diminished, like they incorporated it in post-production, which makes me wonder if it even needed to be there at all. I really enjoyed what little I played of Reason. It might be dramatically difficult for most gamers, but it helped to exercise my brain in a way that very few games these days manage to do. It is developed and published by Qbyte Interactive, who provided me with a code for the Nintendo Switch. It looks to be a Switch exclusive, and you can pick it up via the eShop for 99 cents. I am gonna say that Reason is an impact. It's challenging, but not to the point where I disliked my time with it, and at that price, you're not gonna pay less for an impressive game such as this. In a world where ambient, nostalgic games such as Undertale and Omori have dominated the landscape, there has never been a better time for Dreaming Sarah to exist. It's a surreal, mystifying game that channels the living spirit of side-scrolling adventure platformers like Pitfall or Mega Man, but with a somber and foreboding aesthetic that lingers all throughout the story. In Dreaming Sarah, you play as the titular Sarah, who has been in an accident and has fallen into a coma. I know that might sound like an in-game spoiler, but it's literally in the game synopsis. As you start a new game, you're dropped into the world without anything in the way of context, and it's up to you to explore this mysterious world, collecting items and interacting with characters until you find a way to wake Sarah up. It makes a lot of sense to think about this game being inspired by Yume Nikki, as both games share an aesthetic that can't be ignored. Let's take a look at Dreaming Sarah's pros. It keeps the mystery alive with a countless number of locations to visit, characters to encounter, and hidden items to collect. In fact, the sheer creativity and passion that went into some of the locales and characters made me want to learn more about the world inside Sarah's head. It boasts a fascinating 16-bit visual style. Through simplistic sprite design and color work, they're able to convey more than you might think. I think it's really cool that when you consider the use of unique music for each major area paired with the aesthetically interesting backdrops, in a way, you're able to connect with the creators of this game on an emotional level. I love video games. Let's take a look at Dreaming Sarah's cons. In my opinion, the scale of the world works both as a benefit and detriment. It has been a while since I first played, but I remember needing a guide to figure out how to get in or out of certain areas. I am thankful there was a guide, but it wouldn't hurt the devs to incorporate hints, even if they manifested in the form of more puzzles. At least then I would feel like I had agency. Dreaming Sarah is developed by Asteristic Game Studio and published by Radalaika Games, who provided me with a code for the Nintendo Switch. It is available for the Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series XS for $4.99, and on PC for $5.99. I think Dreaming Sarah is an impact. It's only about 2 hours in length, and for that price, there are definitely worse games you could spend your money on. It made an impression on me, one that I don't think I will soon forget, and for that reason alone, you should consider picking it up for yourself. Imagine, you're in your 80s, and while a lot is jumbled, one fact is immutable. There's not much time left. I don't fear much more in this life than being alone, so I can't imagine the terror of being alone in your own mind, knowing that people should be there, but not knowing who. In Heal, developed by Jesse Makonnen, that's the conceit. The player takes the role of an elderly man at the end of his life, trapped within the recesses of his own mind, and surrounded by reminders of how things used to be. It's a very lonesome experience, but it's up to us to solve the various puzzles and help him to remember the rich life he's led and the people he's spent it with before the end. Let's take a look at Heal's pros. It has a very distinct visual style that makes me think of Pixar's Jerry's Game short film for some reason. That, paired with the point-and-click movement system, gives this one a sense of realism that I would go so far as to suggest is unique to Makonnen. It tells a subtle but emotionally captivating story about an elderly man reliving his beautiful life, carrying with it the bittersweet sadness that comes with the sickness or loss of a loved one who has experienced everything life has to offer. If you've experienced this kind of loss, you might be able to relate with Heal's depiction of it. Let's take a look at Heal's cons. It might sound strange, but for the first time in this series' history, I don't think I have anything to say about Heal that isn't positive. Heal is developed by Jesse Makonnen and published by Radalaika Games, who provided me with a code for the Nintendo Switch. It is available for the Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series XS for a price of $6.99, which I believe is more than fair for this experimental adventure game. I am gonna say that Heal is most certainly an impact. If more developers, both indie and AAA, would be brave enough to create raw, emotional experiences like this, then the industry would change for the better, in my opinion. I don't think there has been a single episode of Indie Impact where all 3 games discussed earned an Impact status, but there's a first for everything, I guess.